Welcome to GrayPrimer, a weekly show that's mostly about miniatures. My name is Nick, I'm your host, and in this episode it's a Shieldwolf special. And this time I'm looking at their current Kickstarter campaign, going to have a dig into some of these Imperium Resin miniatures. Shieldwolf Miniatures is a cool independent miniatures manufacturer operating out of Greece. I've looked at their resin tanks in the past from their Sci-Fi range. I've done the Sisters of Talarium from the Sci-Fi range as well. And then I've gone over into their fantasy range too, looked at the Shield Maidens, looked at the Mountain Orcs, and been very impressed throughout. And I'll put links to those reviews in the show notes below for sure. But today I'm going to look at a selection of the resin miniatures that are featured in their very much current Kickstarter campaign, Imperium Desertum, Imperium Immortalis, and that's running right up until the end of the first week of March, so plenty of time to get in on that, as long as you're not looking at this after the first week of March. In that case, there may be late pledge options, but you'll need to check in on Kickstarter for that. And while it's incredibly kind that Shieldwolf sent me this selection of miniatures for free, I will not be changing the result of my review because of that, and this is certainly not a paid promotion. I'll be reviewing in the same honest and balanced and personal way that I always do. But now that that's out of the way, let's get into the important stuff and have a look at these minis. Okay, so here it is. And I've got to tell you, when Shieldwolf contacted me to say they were going to send me some of this stuff, I immediately went onto the Kickstarter to see what would have been the coolest things to receive. And for sure I wanted to see some of those creepy horse creatures. I wanted to see a bit of artillery, and maybe some ground troops as well. And just glancing at what's in these bags, I think they've ticked all the boxes, which is very cool. So Shieldwolf do this very distinctive buttery looking resin, which I always think is brilliant. Let's have a look at what we've got in the first bag here. Okay, so lots of large bases, and these are 50 mil, so we've got 5 50 mil bases. Which is interesting. A lot of the times when you would have cavalry units, they would come on oval bases, so it's interesting to see these on round. Then we have the horse creatures, and I'm assuming these are riders, so they're all individually bagged. I'm going to get into those. I want to be careful just as I'm opening these, because I don't want to lose parts. There are quite a few tiny parts. I just want to be careful as I get into there. But just looking at them through the bag, there does seem to be a bit of cleanup to do, just a bit of flash around these. But I did also get a good look at the face, and I think there's some incredibly fine detail in there, so that's really cool to see. Obviously it's hard to tell through the baggies. Anyway, let's have a quick look at these horse bodies. Oh, cool. Yeah, there's something weird and biomechanical about these horses, and I've been really looking forward to seeing them in the flesh. You can see the detail on them there with all the little pouches and stuff around the tack. You can see where the rider sits in with the stirrups there. And let's see one of the heads here. Oh, that is very cool. It's almost like a permanently grafted on gas mask respirator, and everything about these horses looks sickly. There you can see that the skin is just hanging off them there, so either malnourished or this is just the way they're engineered, but they're just kind of off looking, which I really like they do not look healthy. You can see the mechanical devices here, all of these augmetic systems and powered prosthetics, so very, very cool looking. Really excited to see these built up. I think these are going to be really interesting. Okay, so that looks like 5 horse things. Yeah, so that looks like 5 horse things and their riders. So let's see what's in this one here. Okay, so we get 3 25 mil bases. And then again, individually bagged. So just looking at these, it looks actually like this is the operating unit for the artillery piece. So you can see this person here is carrying a really large shell. So that's cool. So that's a 3-person unit, I guess, for this piece of artillery here, which has got those neat little wagon wheels, which I love. And let's have a look. More of this buttery smooth resin. It's most likely going to go together very easily. There aren't that many components here, but I will just refer to the images in the Kickstarter just to make sure that I'm doing it right. Don't want to make any mistakes with this, but just glancing at it here, I think it's going to look something like this. I just don't know what this extra piece is for here, but I'll work it out. Looking pretty good, I gotta say, just even at that first glance. But yeah, very excited to get this together, get the horse creature things together, and also the operators for the artillery piece. So I will be right back with all of this built, and I'll let you know how I get on. Back soon. And here they are all built up, and it's a really nice selection of sort of infantry and cavalry, and then the artillery piece at the back there. A really straightforward building experience. They are resin, so you do have to use super glue, so I apologize if there's any residual super glue in my hands. But like the artillery piece went together really well. It's got this quad cannon thing. It's got a few details like skulls and stuff on it. Nice riveting detail around the wheels here. And you can even see the retaining pin going through the wheel hub there, holding them in place. You can see the breeches on the back here. And just really nicely designed, straightforward, solid artillery piece. Really like that one. Now we look at the artillery team themselves. And you get 3 miniatures here. This guy's got his binoculars, but he's kind of turned away from that and is talking to somebody off to his right hand side. You can see lovely details around the clothing. The coat here just being caught in the wind there a little bit. And nothing really to complain about here. I love the gas mask and the helmet design, the spike on top of it there. Just a really solid miniature. But it's when you get to these two others that you see the really, really nice bit of sculpting that's been done. I love that this guy is angling his body as he tries to carry this incredibly heavy artillery shell. And it gives me the feeling that the sculptor has studied images and has actually used those sort of reference images to build this out. It's the same in the next one, where you can see him just bracing himself as he carries this thing. And it gives you a good idea of just how heavy these artillery shells are. You can see the rifle slung across the back, an entrenching tool there. The gas mask gives really menacing feel to this miniature, but I absolutely love the look of it. So the 3-person artillery crew there gives me a lovely little stories with each of them. They stand out very much as interesting sculpts and poses, and very well finished too. And then we're into the cavalry, the cavalry company here at the front. And I just love these. I did just one with a sword, and I left the rest with these lances, because it kind of gave me the feel that this was like the sergeant or whatever of the company. The sword made them stand out a little bit. But across all of these cavalry units, the poses were really interesting. The design details on the horse's face, and there's some augmatics and biomechanical elements that really made them interesting to look at. They weren't exactly challenging to build. They were very straightforward. Most of the horses, all of the horses have a separate rear leg that is keyed in a very specific way. So you can't make any mistakes. They seem just to be a specific leg matches a specific horse. And it's cleverly designed that way. So with all of these, you could go with the sword or the lance. And like I said, I just went with the sword with this one. Into the others, you can see the how different this pose is for the horse. It's really rearing up here. The lance is kind of cradled into underneath his arm there. And again, some lovely sculpting details in the horse's face. I love this kind of biomechanical gas mask look it's got going on. And some of them have biomechanical elements to legs and things, but there's enough variety here that you never feel you're anywhere near building the same miniature twice. There's a ton of variety. And here's another one kind of in a gallop, a little bit reared up, but the lance is down. And I just love the sculpts on these faces, the exquisite level of detail around that horse's face gas mask thing. And then these really aggressive, haunting masks that the riders are wearing. Lots of pouches and things like that. Horses do not look well. They just don't look right at all. They've got saggy skin, and like this one, you can see that rear leg has been completely replaced with this augmatic, and I love these touches. And these elements just make them seem slightly alien. They're not the horses we know and love on this planet anyway. And you can see this other one here, and again, an augmatic leg. Lots of replacements there. That sort of saggy skin. Some strange face mask. I really like the pose on this one too. Very strange looking creatures, but they just fit the whole aesthetic of this range. This rider was slightly different. You can just see his left hand there, just very gently sitting on top of the reins. Whereas some of them were sort of sculpted in place and gripping on. This one was just kind of resting on top. I like that. And some very just subtle differences in the design. You got lots of pouches and things here. And yeah, I very much enjoyed building these. I think they're very cool to look at and could be a really cool addition to something like a Astra Militarum, an Imperial Guard army. But I'm sure there are a whole bunch of games you could use them in. So overall impression, very, very good. I do like the sculpts on the horses. I do like the riders and things. There's definitely drama in these. There's a lot of motion, a lot of activity in them. There's nothing static about these sculpts. The artillery piece at the back is functional more than anything particularly interesting about it. But I really love the artillery team. I think the way they've been sculpted is brilliant. I've never really seen that in a miniature before, where you can see them walking along just trying to counterbalance the weight of what they're carrying. This is just a small slice of the miniatures available in the current Kickstarter from Shieldwolf Miniatures. All you gotta do is search for Shieldwolf on Kickstarter, or I'll put a link in the show notes below and you can click on that. It'll take you right through. And that's active until March 6th. So there's still time to get in on this. And there's some really good value options there for the larger armies. But what I've got here is a selection of, anyway, the cavalry, the infantry, the artillery, and there are also options for the digital-only files, the STLs, but you can check all that out on the Kickstarter. And all that's left to say really is a huge thank you to Shieldwolf Miniatures for sending me out this selection of miniatures from the campaign. And you can also check out Shieldwolf on shieldwolfminiatures.com. And I wish them all the very best for the remainder of the campaign. If you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will catch you on the next one. Take care, and bye-bye.